Hello and welcome to this final first look exploring session looking at Soliman and Perseda, the tragedy thereof, wherein is laid open love's constancy, fortune's inconstancy, and death's triumphs. This is a play that we have looked at the first 3 acts of. We're looking at Act 4 and 5, and is generally attributed to Thomas Kyd, and I have seen absolutely no reason so far not to continue that attribution. It all seems very pucker to me. It is a play of love, fortune and death, having it out over who has more power, and the question of who has more power, the point system, is very difficult to figure out. We've been trying to see who's scoring more. At the moment, I think death is winning just about on the point scoring system. Love just made a power grab for how many points could be awarded towards them, but we think they're deeply suspect and moving the goalposts mid play to try and get a win there. We've just had the invasion of Rhodes. We have many of our characters are now captives. A fair number of them have died because every so often death takes a scalp in this play, and it's anything can happen. Fortune's wheel could turn at any moment, love may strike at any moment, and death almost certainly will strike every few minutes. I don't know how it's going to all end. It may all end with love's victory. Who knows? To continue this reading of the text, all parts are assigned randomly and do not necessarily match any of the characters as you would responsibly cast them in a full production. So reading today, Brusor is...
Francis Cox, actor living in Amsterdam.
Reading Basilisco today is...
Briony Sparrow, actor in Thatcherville.
Reading Perseda today is...
Hello, my name's Elizabeth Amisu and I'm an author based in Romford.
Reading Soliman and the personification of fortune today is...
Me, Sarah Blake, actor, writer and director living in Germany.
Reading a Marshal and also the personification of love today is...
Rachael Nicole, actor in New Jersey. Yeah.
All you need is love. And reading First Witness, Captain and Death is...
Aliki, Chapple, actor, translator, theatre maker, based in Lancaster, England.
Reading Piston, comedy servant extraordinary is...
Hi, I'm Tamara. I'm an actor and based in Germany.
Reading Lucina and second witness is...
Helen Good, historian, Hull.
And reading Erastus today is...
Hi, Alan Scott, based in Suffolk.
And I am your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions and generally moving us along. So, without further ado, let us begin Act 4. Enter Erastus and Piston.
Faith, master, methinks you're unwise that you wear not the high sugar-loaf hat and the gilded gown the emperor gave you.
Peace, fool. A sable weed fits discontent. Away, be gone.
I'll go provide your supper, a shoulder of mutton and never a salad.
Exit Piston.
I must confess that Solomon is kind beyond past all compare, more than my desert. But what helps gay garments when the mind's oppressed? What pleaseth the eye when the sense is altered? My heart is overwhelmed with 1,000 woes, and melancholy leaves my soul in triumph. No marvel then if I have little mind of rich embroidery or costly ornaments, of honours, titles, or of wealth or gain, of music, viols, or of dainty dames. No, my hope fell long ago, was lost, and Rhodes itself is lost, or else destroyed. If not destroyed, yet bound and captivate. If captivate, then forced from holy faith. If forced from faith, forever miserable. For what is misery? The want of God. And God is lost if faith be overthrown.
Enter Soliman.
Why, how now, Erastus? Always in thy dumps? Still in black habit, fitting funeral? Cannot my love persuade thee from this mood? nor all my fair entreats and blandishments. Wert thou my friend, thy mind would jump with mine. For what are friends but one mind in two bodies? Perhaps thou doubts my friendship's constancy. Then dost thou wrong the measure of my love, which hath no measure, and shall never end. Come, Erastus, sit thee down by me, and I'll impart to thee our Brusor's news to our honour, and to thy content. The governor is slain that sought thy death.
A worthy man, though not Erastus' friend.
The Prince of Cyprus, too, is likewise slain.
Fair blossom, likely to have proved good fruit.
Rhodes is taken, and all the men are slain, except some few that turn to Mohammed.
Aye, there it is. Now all my friends are slain, and fair Perseda murdered or deflowered. Ah, gracious Solomon, now show thy love, in not denying thy poor supplicant. Suffer me not to stay here in thy presence, but by myself lament thee once for all. Here, if I stay, I must suppress my tears, and tears suppressed will but increase my sorrow.
Go then, go spend thy mornings all at once, that in thy presence Solomon may joy. For hitherto have I reaped little pleasure.
And exit Erastus.
Well, well, Erastus, Rhodes may bless thy birth. For his sake only will I spare them more from spoil, pillage, and oppression, than Alexander spared warlike Thebes for Pindorus, or than Augustus spared rich Alexandria for Arius' sake.
And enter Brusor, Perseda, and Lucina.
My gracious lord, rejoice in happiness. All Rhodes is yoked and stoops to Solomon.
First, thanks to heaven, and next to Brusor's valour, which are not guerdon with large promises, but straight reward thee with a bounteous largesse. But what two Christian virgins have we here?
Poor part of the spoil of Rhodes, which were preserved to be presented to your mightiness.
This present pleaseth more than all the rest. And were their garments turned from black to white, I should have deemed them Juno's goodly swans, or Venus' milk-white doves, so mild they are, and so adorned with beauty's miracle. Here, Brusor, this kind turtle shall be thine. Take her and use her at thy pleasure. But this kind turtle is for Soliman, that her captivity may turn to bliss. Fair looks, resembling Phoebus' radiant beams, smooth forehead, like the table of high Jove, small penciled eyebrows, like two glorious rainbows, quick lamp-like eyes, like heaven's two brightest orbs, lips of pure coral, breathing ambrosie, cheeks where the rose and lily are in combat, neck whiter than the snowy Apennines, breasts like two overflowing fountains, twixt which a veil leads to the Elysian shades, where, under covert, lie the fount of pleasure which thoughts may guess, but tongue must not profane. A sweeter creature nature never made. Love never tainted Soliman till now. Now, fair virgin, let me hear thee speak.
What can my tongue utter but grief and death?
The sound is honey, but the sense is gall. Then, sweeting, bless me with a cheerful look.
How can mine eyes dart forth a pleasant look when they are stopped with floods of flowing tears?
If tongue with grief and eyes with tears be filled, say, virgin, how doth thy heart admit the pure affection of great Soliman?
My thoughts are like pillars of adamant, too hard to take a new impression.
Nay, then, I see my stooping makes her proud. She is my vassal, and I will command. Coy virgin, know'st thou what offence it is to thwart the will and pleasure of a king? Why, thy life is done, if I but say the word.
Why, that's the period that my heart desires.
And die thou shalt, unless thou change thy mind.
Nay then, Perseda grows resolute. Solomon's thoughts and mine resemble lines parallel, that never can be joined.
Then kneel thee down, and at my hands receive the stroke of death, doomed to thyself by thine own wilfulness.
Strike, strike! Thy words pierce deeper than thy blows.
Brusor, hide her, for her looks withhold me.
Then Brusor hides her with a lawn.
O Brusor, thou hast not hid her lips, for there sits Venus, with Cupid on her knee, and all the graces smiling round about her, so craving pardon, that I cannot strike.
Her face is covered over quite, my lord.
Why so? Oh, Brusor, seest thou not her milk-white neck, that alabaster tower? 'Twill break the edge of my keen scimitar, and pieces, flying back, will wound myself.
Now she's all covered, my lord.
Why, now at last she dies.
O Christ, receive my soul!
Hark, Brusor, she calls on Christ. I will not send her to him. Her words are music, the self-same music that in ancient days brought Alexander from war to banqueting and made him fall from skirmishing to kissing. No, my dear love would not let me kill thee. Though majesty would turn desire to wrath, there lies my sword, humbled at thy feet. And I myself, that govern many kings, entreat a pardon for my rash misdeed.
Now Soliman wrongs his imperial state. But if thou love me, and have hope to win, grant me one boon that I shall crave of thee.
Whate'er it be, Perseda, I grant it thee.
Then let me live a Christian virgin still, unless my state shall alter by my will.
My word is past, and I recall my passions. What should he do with crowns and empery that cannot govern private, fond affections? Yet give me leave in honest sort to court thee, to ease, though not to cure, my malady. Come, sit thee down upon my right hand here. This seat I keep void for another friend. Go, Janissaries, call in your governor. So shall I joy between two captive friends, and yet myself be captive to them both, if friendship's yoke were not at liberty. See where he comes, my other best beloved.
Enter Erastus.
My sweet and best beloved.
Sweet and best beloved.
For thee, my dear Erastus, have I lived.
And I for thee, or else I had not lived.
What words in affection do I see?
Ah, pardon me, great Solomon, for this is she, for whom I mourned more than for all roads, and from whose absence I derive my sorrow.
And pardon me, my lord, for this is he, for whom I thwarted Solomon's entreat, and for whose exile I lamented thus.
Even from my childhood have I tended thee, witness the heavens of my unfeigned love.
By this one accident, I well perceive that heavens and heavenly powers do manage love. I love them both. I know not which the better. They love each other best. What then should follow but that I conquer both by my deserts, and join their hands whose hearts are knit already? Erastus and Perseda, come you hither, and both give me your hands. Erastus, none but thou couldst win Perseda. Perseda, none but thou could win Erastus from great Soliman. So well I love you both. And now, to turn late promises to good effect, be thou, Erastus, governor of Rhodes. By this thou shalt dismiss my garrison.
Must he reap that, for which I took the toil? Come, envy then, and sit in friendship's seat. How can I love him that enjoys my right?
Give me a crown, to crown the bride withal.
And in a moment he's going to crown Perseda.
Perseda, for my sake, wear this crown. Now is she fairer than she was before. This title so augments her beauty, as the fire that lay with honour's hand raked up in ashes revives against to flames. The force is such. Remove the cause, then the effect will die. They must depart, or I shall not be quiet. Erastus and Perseda, marvel not that all in haste I wish you to depart. There is an urgent cause, but privy to myself. Come on, command my shipping for to waft you over.
My gracious lord, when Erastus doth forget this favour, then let him live abandoned and forlorn.
Nor will Perseda slack even in her prayers, but still solicit God for Soliman, whose mind hath proved so good and gracious.
And they exit, leaving the rest of the cast, Soliman, Brusor, Lucina, etc., on stage.
Farewell, Erastus. Perseda, farewell too. Methinks I should not part with two such friends, the one so renowned for arms and courtesy, the other so adorned with grace and modesty. Yet, of the two, Perseda moves me most, aye, and so moves me that I now repent that ere I gave away my heart's desire. What was it but abuse of fortune's gift? And therefore fortune now will be revenged. What was it but abuse of love's command, and therefore mighty love will be revenged? Heavens, love and fortune, all three have decreed that I shall love her still and lack her still, like ever-thirsting, wretched Tantalus. Foolish Soliman, why did I strive to do him kindness and undo myself? Well-governed friends do first regard themselves.
Aye, now occasion serves to stumble him that thrust his sickle in my harvest corn. Pleaseth your majesty to hear Brusor speak?
To one past cure good counsel comes too late. Yet say thy mind.
With secret letters woo her, and with gifts.
My lines and gifts will but return my shame.
Hear me, my lord. Let me go over to Rhodes, that I may plead in your affection's cause. One woman may do much to win another.
Indeed, Lucina? Were her husband from her, she happily might be won by thy persuades. But while he lives, there is no hope in her.
Why lives he then to grieve great Soliman? This only remains that you consider. In two extremes, the least is to be chosen. If so your life depend upon her love, and that her love depends upon his life, is it not better that Erastus die 10,000 deaths than Soliman should perish?
Aye. Say'st thou so? Why then, it shall be so. But by what means shall poor Erastus die?
This shall be the means. I'll fetch him back again under colour of great consequence. No sooner shall he land upon our shore, but witness shall be ready to accuse him of treason done against your mightiness, and then he shall be doomed by martial law.
Oh, fine device! Brusor, get thee gone. Come thou again, but let the lady stay to win Perseda to my will. Meanwhile will I prepare the judge and witnesses, and, if this take effect, thou shalt be viceroy, and fair Lucina queen of Tripoli. Brusor, be gone, for till thou come, I languish.
Exeunt Brusor and Lucina.
And now, to ease my troubled thoughts at last, I will go sit among my learned eunuchs, and hear them play, and see my minions dance. For till that Brusor bring me my desire, I may assuage, but never quench, love's fire.
And exits Soliman, and we'll call that the end of a scene. And my God, how many turns and changes did that scene take? If you have power, you have so many opportunities to be a total bastard. So many chances and reasons to just flip from one direction to another. You can see Fortune's wheels just spinning round randomly in the background there. You can see these decisions being made. Just playing games. Also, there's so many questions, so many thoughts. I think I'll just go to the room and we'll dance through them because this is doing all sorts of different work. Briony first, then Elizabeth.
Just one question. He hides her with a lawn. What?
It's a kind of fabric.
Okay, I thought I'd missed something there. I was going to say, because imagining him shoving her under some AstroTurf or something.
No turf was harmed in the process.
Elizabeth.
I just thought it was a big change, a big, drastic 180-degree turn from wanting to kill Perseda to being happy for her and Erastus. I just thought, at one point, I thought he actually struck a blow, and then she was covered with the lawn. But I don't think he did. He didn't actually hit her.
No, I don't think he did. I think he was talking figuratively. Yeah.
Okay, it was figurative. Okay, good, cool.
Helen.
Yeah, I thought Solomon, considering who he was and what his powers are, was behaving remarkably well until Lucina and Brusor decided that he wasn't the Solomon they knew and loved. They wanted him a bit more stabby.
Well, yeah, but he was already changing in that direction, Brusor and more importantly, Lucina. What's going on with her? Because we've got very little sense of what's going on with her. She's a prisoner, but she seems. And there's this bit at the beginning, that very uncomfortable moment, is going, "I'll have this one, you have that one." Moment, and just wondering if there seems like there's a story here that we don't actually have that is inferred. Aliki, then Sarah.
Sorry, we do have the story. Isn't she the one whose lover was killed by Erastus?
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
Oh,
Yes.
That's true. I had forgotten that. Yes.
Yeah.
It's that damn chain again.
Yeah.
Oh, the carcanet.
Sarah.
Yeah, Aliki's just answered my question actually, because I was gonna pick up on what you said, because if there is, I've only just come into this, I've missed the first two sessions, and if there is no backstory with her, then I'm like, well, what is going on here? I have to say, normally when I come in for the final session of a play, I have no clue what is going on. This is really interesting because the play's called Soliman and Perseda, and it's like they've just met. What have I actually missed? Presumably I've missed tons, but it all seems to be kicking off now, actually. And there were so many, like Elizabeth was saying, there were so many turns in that, and he was going through so many changes. I'm like, well, has it been really slow up to this point, or has there just been a lot happening and they've only just met now?
It is a bit of a game of two halves in the sense that the first half, pre-invasion, is much more in the small-scale world of what's going on with Erastus and his love, and a chain being passed around, and then this sort of hints of build-up of wars coming, and then we've just literally had the invasion. People being killed, following on from a scene where someone says, "Let's not do any jokes anymore." We're not here for laughs anymore, and it's got suddenly so much darker. I mean, it's delivered in a single line. Rhodes is taken and all the men are slain.
Right.
So that's the cast to date.
Yeah, that's basically if you were
Okay.
An able-bodied adult male on Rhodes, you are probably not alive. Anymore, unless you've turned Turk, as we know Basilisco has. So, there's quite a lot of brutality happened on stage, but an awful lot of stuff has happened off stage, which is just mentioned in passing here. So yes, in a sense, you haven't missed anything, because in a sense we are now dealing with a slightly different story, or an extension of the story. This is actually quite nicely self-contained. Helen?
We've also got the alienation of Brusor. Because he was absolutely Suleiman's right-hand man.
Well, he killed the other two.
Yes,
Well,
Soliman had 3 right-hand men, and one of them killed the other, and then Soliman killed the second, and that left Brusor,
who was away at the time.
Who was also not his brother, unlike the other two.
Yeah, but the point is that he's taken Rhodes and obviously expected to be given Rhodes.
Yeah.
But this is all about the power of love. I mean, Soliman is making bad statecraft decisions based on what he might call love and we might call lust.
Well, also it's also the in theory that sort of the question of that platonic relationship that he has with Erastus as well, of that kind of, because he gives him stuff, which is politically not a good move. And he regrets it immediately, not just because Brusor doesn't like it, but also just going, but I really quite fancy her, and I've just given him the thing, and maybe can I undo this? And they say, yes, my lord, you can. But, it's that thing that you've got people who are prisoners, people who are... The power dynamics here is doing so much work. And, I've got noted in the margin, fortune, love, death, fortune. All the possible permutations of what's going on in the supernatural sphere around this story as well. Other thoughts? Did I see Rachael waving earlier? Rachael, then Briony.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Lucina has, her and Brusor together, they both have grudges against Erastus because Erastus still killed their lover. So, I mean, for her, that's, I don't know, not a good combo, but a good, I don't know, revenge combo to be with Brusor.
We'll say it's the question of with the Brusor. The thing I was really sort of trying to flag up earlier is, we have no stage time with them being nice to each other, or it's at the moment it's been presented as prisoner and escort, and you can have there's not a sense of what her wider motivations are. As she may have a direct reason to get rid of Erastus, but where she is placed with Brusor in this relationship is not a good place. Did you have more, Rachael? Sorry, you're muted at present.
No, I didn't mean like as a couple, but I just meant like as the story that might be a possible reason why she was put together with him, is just for that, some maybe she'll have a bigger part, something revenge.
Yeah. Briony.
I just like I don't even know what the word is. This self-belief, like absolutely rolling off Soliman, to the point where I really like, because it's so horrible and problematic, the bit where he's saying about how obviously her experience generally as a captive is going to be instantly improved if he just takes her into the bedroom.
I was there were several comments in the chat on this sequence as well, and I was just noting, I didn't pull it down, but the last person someone talked in so overtly a sexual fashion as this, they were dead 100 lines later, in similarly slightly pervy ways, but in much less controlly power dynamic difference ways that we have here. Aliki.
I want to address that a little bit, and I want to say that, he is pervy, and but he suggests that she'll have a really nice time with him, actually. It's not, I'll show her right? It's not, I'll make that bitch take it, which is what a modern play would probably give a conqueror. And that I thought was interesting. I'm also interested in Perseda's kind of tremendous dignity and self-control in this terrible peril of rape and death and captivity. I mean, she has captivity. She has seen all of this death. And the very few lines in which it is conveyed, to live a Christian virgin still, is like, bang, right on.
Briony.
I do get what Aliki's saying, but personally, I read him more. It's not that he's not rapey, it's that he doesn't for one second think that it would need to be rape because he is so wonderful and she will definitely enjoy it whether she likes it or not.
The mercurial way that he's structured there is is I mean, in a sense it is a very well structured part, you know, and but it raises all sorts of questions. I mean, Sarah, you were reading him. Any thoughts from the actor perspective?
Well, one thing about him is that just coming into this, not having read up to here and not having read ahead, I did immediately get a very strong sense of who he was. You know, I mean, he's Lord of all he surveys. He's a bit of a dick, as they tend to be, and he's massively self-entitled, which again they tend to be. So he's quite fun to play, really. He's yeah. I mean, he reminds me of other tyrants we have known, and I don't know what's going to happen to him. I don't know if he's going to be one of these tyrants who ends up, you know, on the end of a sword, or whether he's gonna. I don't know. He probably will. They usually do. But
well, it's that thing about people with power is they'll suddenly go, I like you, I will give you everything, and then they'll immediately go, actually, I quite like having everything myself. Oh, that was a bad, you know, call. What do I do about that? And then someone suggests a solution. Sarah.
Yeah, it's quite interesting as well, because the thing that you were saying about, you know, fortune and death and love in the background, sort of doing all their stuff. I mean, I haven't experienced that yet, and it's interesting because thinking about it in terms of him as a character, how much is he being manipulated by them, and how much is he acting, you know, on his own impetus? And maybe you've already had this conversation in previous sessions, I don't know, but it's like, to me, it seems that he's very much doing his own thing, that he's acting purely from his own impetus, that, you know, he's acting on his spontaneous desires and thoughts and emotions as they arise. He wants to do the noble. He falls in love with her because she's hot. Then he discovers that his best friend is in love with her, and he wants to do the noble thing, so he does it. Then he instantly regrets it, so then he plots to kill him. It's like to me, it seems that he's acting completely from his own agency. But then, depending on how, I guess, the production is staged, if there's all these other figures kind of working away in the background, manipulating him, I mean, that makes a massive difference to his character. So it's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, I do get the impression that people are willing to work whatever, you know. You have this with other figures, you know, who will just spout what they want in a long stream of consciousness, and then other people will go out and enable that to happen. Briony.
Sarah's just reminded me with saying that, actually, that he, I don't think anybody, or certainly in yesterday's session, I don't think any of the human characters directly mentioned love, fortune, or death. It's certainly not as directly as Soliman does in that speech, where he says about fortune needing to be revenged and love needing to be revenged and all of that.
We've had occasional moments, but you're right. It's a really, really packed in there, isn't it? There's just scanning it. I'm counting 3 or 4 loves and fortunes, one after another, in very quick succession. Any additional thoughts before we move forward, Helen?
Yes, and the failed execution of Perseda is a direct triumph of love over death and fortune.
Okay, we're going to move on to what we'll call scene 2, and we'll rattle to the end of the act. I think we've got, we'll have the return of love and fortune and death in a moment. But for the moment, it's our favourite boastful knight. I don't know how gingerly he's going to be walking. Enter Basilisco.
Since the expugnation of the Rhodian Isle, methinks 1,000 years are overpast, more for the lack of my Perseda's presence than for the loss of Rhodes, that paltry isle, or for my friends that there were murdered. My valour everywhere shall purchase friends, and where a man lives well, there is his country. Alas, the Christians are but very shallow in giving judgment of a man at arms, a man of my desert and excellence. The Turks, whom they account for barbarous, having foreheard of Basilisco's worth, a number underprop me with their shoulders, and in procession bear me to the church, as I had been a second Mahomet. I, fearing they would adore me for a god, wisely informed them that I was but a man, although in time perhaps I might aspire to purchase godhead, as did Hercules. I mean, by doing wonders in the world. Amidst their church they bound me to a pillar, and to make trial of my valiancy, they lopped a collop off my tenderest member. But think'st you Basilisco squeeched for that, even as a cow for tickling in the horn? That done, they set me on a milk-white ass, compassing me with goodly ceremonies. That day, methought I sat in Pompey's chair, and viewed the Capitol, and was Rome's greatest glory.
Enter Piston.
I would my master had left some other to be his agent here. Faith, I am weary of the office already. What? Signor Tremomundo, that rid a pilgrimage to beg cake bread.
Oh, take me not unprovided. Let me fetch my weapon.
Why, I meant nothing but a basolus, Manus.
No? Didst thou not mean to give me in the privy stab?
No, by my troth, sir.
Nay, if thou hadst, I had not feared thee. I tell thee, my skin holds out pistol-proof.
Pistol-proof? I'll try if it will hold out pin-proof.
Then he pricks him with a pin.
Oh, shoot no more. Great God, I yield to thee.
I see his skin is pistol-proof, but from the girdle upward. What sudden agony was that?
Why, saw'st thou not how Cupid, god of love, not daring look me in the martial face, came like a coward stealing after me, and with his pointed dart pricked my posteriors?
Then hear my opinion concerning that point. The ladies of Rhodes, hearing that you have lost a capital part of your lady you wear, have made their petition to Cupid to plague you above all other, as one prejudicial to their muliebrity. Now, sir, Cupid, seeing you are already hurt before, thinks it a greater punishment to hurt you behind. Therefore, I would wish you to have an eye to the back door.
Sooth, thou sayest, I must be fenced behind. I'll hang my target there.
Indeed, that will serve to bear off some blows when you run away in a fray.
Sirrah, sirrah, what art thou, that thus encroachest upon my familiarity without special admittance?
Why, do you not know me? I am Erastus, man.
What, art thou that petty pygmy that challenged me at Rhodes, whom I refused to combat for his minority? Where is Erastus? I owe him chastisement in Perseda's quarrel.
Do not you know that they are all friends, and Erastus married to Perseda, and Erastus made governor of Rhodes, and I left here to be their agent?
Oh, Elium, oh, Terra, oh, Maria, Neptune, did I turn Turk to follow her so far?
The more shame for you.
And is she linked in liking with my foe?
That's because you were out of the way.
Oh, wicked Turk, for to steal her hence.
No wicked turncoat that would have her stay.
The truth is, I will be a Turk no more.
And I fear thou wilt never prove good Christian.
I will after to take revenge.
And I'll stay here about my master's business.
Farewell, Constantinople. I will to Rhodes.
And exit Basilisco.
Farewell, counterfeit fool. God send him good shipping. 'Tis noised about that Brusor is sent to fetch my master back again. I cannot be well till I hear the rest of the news, therefore I'll about it straight.
Exit Piston, and we return to the studio for the chorus to find out what we make of the match scores from Love, Fortune and Death.
Now, Fortune, what hast thou done in this latter act?
I brought Perseda to the presence of Soliman, the Turkish emperor, and gave Lucina into Brusor's hands.
And first I stang them with consenting love, and made great Soliman, sweet beauty's thrall, humble himself at fair Perseda's feet, and made him praise love and captive beauty. Again I made him recall his passions, and gave Perseda to Erastus's hand, and after make repentance of the deed.
Meantime I filled Erastus' sails with wind, and brought him home unto his native land.
And I suborned Brusor with envious rage to counsel Soliman to slay his friend. Brusor is sent to fetch him back again. Mark well what follows, for the history proves me chief actor in this tragedy.
And they exit. Once again, Love is trying to claim as many points as possible. I lost count of how many points precisely Love was. I got to around 5. Fortune's going for about 3. Death was just holding back there. Just the one. Just take the one. Bruiser's moving in the general direction of deathiness. So I think we need to talk about having lopped a collop off my tenderest member, or the capital part of your ladywear, which I think is a particularly interesting. I had to look collop up actually. It wasn't in my personal lexicon, but it is, yes, a term for a slice of meat. So it's a very appropriate term. Be careful Googling that for images. In conjunction with this, it comes off particularly interesting set of conjunctions.
I was just going to say, I've seen the word collop used in modern recipes, so it was not unfamiliar to me.
No, it was. I became very aware though. No, this was apparently a word I should know, but it just hadn't crossed my path. So I'm delighted to find it in both a modern and early modern context. So Basilisco, he's trying to really make this thing that happened to him into some great trial here, isn't he? He's constantly trying to spin everything to make himself look better, and it's a bit tragic now, isn't it? I'm not sure how funny this is. It's partly funny, because Piston does make it quite funny, the whole pricking thing. But yeah, Helen and Aliki.
I think what we've got here is the formal process of conversion, the going to the mosque and the eventual mutilation. But it comes up again in other places. Mainly a Christian turned Turk, and that there is, especially the riding on the is it a white ass? Yeah. This is how much it is factual and how much it is just the impression in early modern London of what it meant to turn Turk. I don't know, but certainly it is. What he's describing is not Caesar's triumph. It is a conversion ritual.
I've been trying to work that out too. I'm pretty sure that adult converts were not required to be circumcised without anesthetic. But yeah, I don't really know. I'm interested though in that Like, if there's one thing we know about Muslim culture, right, it's that they're really keen on declaring people to be gods. They really kind of want lots and lots of gods, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking that, you know, if the tragedy is called Soliman and Perseda, the comedy that is in it is obviously called Piston and Basilisco, and it's nice to see them again doing their thing, even though it is significantly darker than it was when we first saw them doing their thing.
Yeah. Did I see Briony earlier? I see Elizabeth now.
I was just going to say when Aliki said that they didn't usually, it generally wasn't adult practice to circumcise an adult without anaesthetic. I was just going to say they probably would have made an exception for Basilisco.
Yeah, you get the impression that Basilisco is just a walking exception to every rule, isn't he? Elizabeth.
Yeah, I was on mute. Is it me, or was the speech between love, fortune, and death really, really short? I was just settling in there to get this beautiful, rapport between the three of them, and then it was just over really fast.
Yeah, it might be simply that we're near the end and they want to keep the action moving on. Sometimes there's a bit of a problem by having a chorus popping up every act because it sometimes slows the action down rather than speeds it up. I think it's sensible that this one's a bit shorter than the earlier ones. And as ever, death just, yeah. I'm you know, he's gonna win. He's gonna win. I know he's gonna win.
Mark well not. What follows, for the history proves me chief actor in this tragedy.
Yeah. It's not a comedy, people, however many laughs we manage to squeeze in. Helen, then Alan.
Rachael has put an excellent thing in chat about all the snake imagery for Basilisco, coupled with his trouser snake imagery. Which I think is rather good.
Mm. Yes, because we do have that basilisk element in the name. Alan.
I must admit, I'm going back to the sequence between Piston and Basilisco. I get the impression each time that those two turn up on stage, that is the comic and the feed. And that those are played as comedy scenes. Despite the fact there is a certain amount of plot development going on within them, there is a heck of a lot of opportunity for horseplay, for physical business, and maybe waking up those in the audience who dozed off because it's got a bit wordy.
Yeah, I think there is a you know, we've had a very heavy scene before this, so yeah, that there is room for comedy, and I just like the fact that, you know, he's calling him Cupid, and I am wondering whether the actor who's playing Piston has played Cupid before. That, you know, that might be an in joke here, because we've got quite a few Cupids knocking about at this time in various companies' repertoires. So the idea that you know, he's been pricked. Oh, it must have been Cupid that pricked me with his arrows. And if there's a meta joke in there as well, that's an interesting possibility. Briony.
Yeah, just in terms of the comedy within this play, I think because we've noticed obviously that things have got a lot darker. I think, and I'm hoping it stays that way, but I think it's nice that Piston, being probably the youngest person in the company, because, you know, it's been mentioned that he's a boy and he's quite short, that he's almost kind of stayed as this light, very physical comedic character, whereas because of the plot stuff, Basilisco, it has got more tragic now. But I like that Piston seems to be sort of just constant, staying young and fresh and funny and just lightening it up.
And also just reminding us of that thing that Basilisco is not a fan of Erastus. You know, in theory, he's been commissioned to murder him. You know, in theory at least. So there is that sense of Basilisco. That's where he's going. He's going to Rhodes to catch up, and also just reiterating plot elements as well. So the scene is doing actually quite a lot of different things at the same time. which is nice. So I'd hate it if there's a one-note comedy scene. It is actually managed to mix up things quite a lot. Okay, we have Act 5 to dive into. Unless anyone has any additional thoughts, they're desperate to throw out. We will go into Act 5. I don't know how many scenes there are in Act 5. As ever, I have no idea how many scenes are in any of these acts. So we'll call this Scene 1. Enter Erastus and Perseda.
Perseda, these days are our days of joy. What could I more desire than thee to wife, and that I have, or than to govern roads, and that I do, thanks to great Solomon.
And thanks to gracious heaven, that so brought Solomon from worse to better. For though I never told it thee till now, his heart was purposed once to do thee wrong.
Aye, that was before he knew thee to be mine. But now, Perseda, let's forget old griefs, and let our studies wholly be employed to work each other's bliss and heart's delight.
Our present joys will be so much the greater, when as we call to mind past griefs, so sings the mariner upon the shore, when he hath passed the dangerous time of storms. But if my love will have old griefs forgot, they shall lay buried in Perseda's breast.
Enter Brusor and Lucina.
Welcome, Lord Brusor.
And Lucina too.
Thanks, Lord Governor.
And thanks to you, madam.
What hasty news brings you so soon to Rhodes? Although to me you never come too soon.
So it is, my lord, that upon great affairs, importuning health and wealth of Solomon, his highness by me entreateth you, as ever you respect his future love, or have regard unto his courtesy, to come yourself in person and visit him, without inquiry what should be the cause.
Were there no ships to cross the seas withal, mine arms should frame me oars to cross the seas. And, should the seas turn tide to force me back, desire should frame me wings to fly to him. I go. Perseda, thou must give me leave.
Though lost, yet Solomon's command prevails.
And sweet Perseda, I will stay with you from Brusor my beloved, and I'll want him till he bring back Erastus unto you.
Lord Brusor, come, 'tis time that we were gone.
Perseda, farewell. Be not angry, for that I carry thy beloved from thee. We will return with all speed possible. And thou, Lucina, use Perseda so, that for my carrying of Erastus hence, she curse me not. And so farewell to both.
And exeunt most people apart from Perseda.
Come, Lucina, let's in. My heart is full.
And exit everybody else. And we'll call that the end of a scene. How are we feeling about that? As an interesting selection of people together. Are we all hopeful for this the turn of events here? Francis.
Well, we know what Bruiser's going to do, but I'm wondering what Lucina is going to do with Perseda.
Oh, we know what she's going to do.
Oh, do we? Have I missed
She
something?
told Solomon she would whisper sweet nothings about Solomon into Perseda's ear.
Oh, right. Yeah, I'd forgotten that. You're right. Yeah.
One sweet nothings and the other is probably slightly sharper.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the fact that we know what's going on, how nice they're, hello, isn't it lovely to see you? Come in. Yeah, they're going to have chats. So I'm sure it's going to turn out lovely. I think it's going to be fine. I'm not going to linger any longer here. We're going to move on to what I'll call Scene 2. Enter Soliman, Lord Marshal, 2 witnesses, and Janissaries. Soliman is muted, but he's king, so he can do whatever he likes.
Sorry,
Yes.
I thought I was unmuted there, but then I wasn't, and I don't know what happened. Sorry. Right. Lord Marshal, see you handle it cunningly. And when Erastus comes, our perjured friend, see he be condemned by martial law. Here will I stand to see, and not be seen.
Come, fellows, see when this matter comes in question. You stagger not, and, Janissaries, see that your strangling cords be ready.
Oh, that Perseda were not half so fair, or that Soliman were not so fond, or that Perseda had some other love whose death might save my poor Erastus' life.
Enter Brusor and Erastus.
See where he comes, whom though I dearly love, yet must his blood be spilled for my behoof. Such is the force of marrow-burning love.
Erastus, Lord Governor of Rhodes, I arrest you in the king's name.
What thinks Lord Brusor of this strange arrest? Hast thou entrapped me to this treachery? Intended, well I wot, without the leave or licence of my lord, great Soliman.
Why then, appeal to him, where thou shalt know and be assured that I betray thee not.
Yes, thou and I and all of us betray him.
No, in this case no appeal shall serve.
Why then to thee or unto any else I here protest by heavens unto you all, that never was the man more true or just, or in his deeds more loyal and upright, or more loving or more innocent than I have been to gracious Soliman, since first I set my feet on Turkish land.
Myself would be his witness, if I durst. But bright Perseda's beauty stops my tongue.
Why, sirs, why face to face express you not the treasons you revealed to Solomon?
That very day Erastus went from hence, he sent for me into his cabinet, and for that man that is of my profession.
I never saw them, until this day.
His cabin door fast shut, he first began to question us, all sorts of fireworks, wherein we had fully resolved him, what might be done. He, spreading on the board a huge heap of our imperial coin, all this is yours, quoth he, if you consent to leave great Soliman and serve in Rhodes.
Why, that was treason, but onward with the rest.
Enter Piston.
What have we here? My master before the Marshal?
We said not I, nor durst we say him nay, because we were already in his galleys, but seemed content to fly with him to Rhodes. With that he pursed his gold and pursed the gold and gave it us. The rest I dare not speak, it is so bad.
Heavens, hear you this, and drop not vengeance upon them?
The rest and worse I will discourse in brief. Will you consent, quoth he, to fire the fleet that lies hard by us here in Bosphorus? For be it spoke in secret here, quoth he, Rhodes must no longer bear the Turkish yoke. We said the task might easily be performed, but that we lacked such drugs to mix with powder as were not in his galleys to be got. At this he leaped for joy, swearing and promising that our reward should be redoubled. We came aland, not minding to return, and as our duty and allegiance bound us, we made all known unto great Soliman. But ere we could summon him aland, his ships were past a kenning from the shore. Belike he thought we had betrayed his treasons.
That all is true, that here you have declared. Both lay your hands upon the Alcaron.
Foul death betide me if I swear not true.
and mischief light on me if I swear false.
Mischief and death shall light upon you both.
Erastus, thou seest what witness hath produced against thee. What answerest thou unto their accusation?
But these are Synons, and myself poor Troy.
Now it resteth I appoint thy death, wherein thou shalt confess I'll favour thee, for that thou wert beloved of Soliman. Thou shalt forthwith be bound unto that post, and strangled as our Turkish order is.
Such favour send all Turks, I pray God.
I see this train was plotted ere I came. What boots complaining, where's no remedy? Yet give me leave, before my life shall end, to moan Perseda, and accuse my friend.
Oh, unjust Soliman! Oh, wicked time, where filthy lust must murder honest love!
Dispatch, for our time limited is past.
Alas, how can he be but short, whose tongue is fast tied with galling sorrow? Farewell, Perseda. No more but that for her. Inconstant Soliman, no more but that for him. Unfortunate Erastus, no more but that for me. Lo, this is all, and thus I leave to speak.
And then they strangle him.
Marry, sir, this is a fair warning for me to get me gone.
Exit Piston.
Oh, save his life if it be possible! I will not lose him for my kingdom's worth. Oh, poor Erastus. Art thou dead already? What bold presumer durst be so resolved for to bereave Erastus' life from him, whose life to me was dearer than mine own? Wast thou? And thou? Lord Marshal, bring them hither, and at Erastus' hand let them receive the stroke of death, whom they have spoiled of life. What? Is thy hand too weak? Then mine shall help to send them down to everlasting night, to wait upon thee through eternal shade. Thy soul shall not go mourning hence alone. Thus die, and thus, for thus you murdered him.
And then he kills the two Janissaries that killed Erastus.
But soft, methinks he is not satisfied. The breath doth murmur softly from his lips, and bids me kill those bloody witnesses by whose treachery Erastus died. Lord Marshal, hail them up to the tower's top, and throw them headlong down into the valley. So let their treasons with their lives have end.
Yourself procured us.
Is this a hire?
Then the Marshal bears them up to the tower top.
Speak not a word, lest in my wrathful fury I doom you to 10,000 direful torments. And Brusor, see Erastus be interred with honour in a kingly sepulchre. Why, when, Lord Marshal? Great Hercules' son, although his age did plead for innocence, was sooner tumbled from the fatal tower than are those perjured wicked witnesses.
Then they are tumbled down.
Why now, Erastus' ghost is satisfied. Ay, but yet the wicked judge survives, by whom Erastus was condemned to die. Brusor, as thou lovest me, stab to the Marshal, lest he detect us unto the world by making known our bloody practices. And then will thou and I hoist sail to Rhodes, where thy Lucina and my Perseda lives.
I will, my lord. Lord Marshal, it is his highness's pleasure that you commend him to Erastus' soul.
And then he kills the Marshal.
Here ends my dear Erastus' tragedy. And now begins my pleasant comedy. But if Perseda understand these news, our scene will prove but tragicomical.
Fear not, my lord. Lucina plays her part and woos apace in Soliman's behalf.
Then, Brusor, come, and with some few men let's sail to Rhodes with all convenient speed. For till I fold Perseda in mine arms, my troubled ears are deafed with love's alarms.
And they exit. So, Death's doing well this scene. I count 5 on his tally. Doing very well there. We have a strangulation, stabbings, and from a great height. Of which the logistics
I think
of
there's
that.
more than 5. I think there's more than 5.
I said 6, didn't I?
Oh, no. Sorry,
said
I
5.
misheard.
You did say 5, but we'll forgive you.
Oh, I apologise. I meant to say 6. I have 6 written down in my script.
Have a
Yes.
script?
It's numbers already.
So yeah, we've got these witnesses. It's all been very carefully arranged. It's all just and above board. The 2 witnesses against you. We have there's a post, and then they strangle him, and and then. Yeah, you just don't know where you are with Soliman, do you? I mean, whoa. Lots of hands I see. I'll go Francis, Briony, Aliki.
One thing that struck me was that Soliman had killed everyone involved in this dastardly plot, except Brusor. But I guess he still needs Brusor to do his dirty work. And I was also wondering how throwing the 2 janissaries. Oh no, sorry, it wasn't the janissaries. It was the 2 witnesses from the tower would have been accomplished on stage.
Yes, what do we mean by the tower? Are they leaping from a great height into the... We have got people falling up from great heights on stage. Arthur does it in The Troublesome Reign of King John. So maybe we've got some acrobats who know how to fall from a great height, or they are pushed off the other way, so they just do a noise and then just duck down behind a balcony, kind of thing. So yeah, lots of options. I said Briony, then Aliki, then Rachael.
Yeah, Solomon's like psychopathic. You can't even say mercurial, because he's just like, he's psychologically distanced himself from this crime by killing all of the people that he hired specifically to do it. And I think the reason that Brusor hasn't been killed is because he's kind of part of him already, bound to him in the same way. So he is now as vindicated as Soliman himself is by the deaths of all these traitorous, terrible people that made all of this happen at his best. It's really messed up.
Joffrey's got nothing on him. Aliki, Rachael, then Sarah.
So that first scene in which we saw Soliman in Act 1 is a scene in which one person is killed in front of him, and then he kills the killer, and then immediately repents. So actually that scene is telling us exactly who he is. From the very beginning, we've known. He switches on a dime, and he instantly repents, and then he switches on a dime, and he's bloody murderous with it. Wow. But I also just kind of want to underline the image of him trying to kill the Janissaries with dead Erastus's arm, dead Erastus's hand, right? And that, as a Grand Guignol kind of stage moment, is not to be wasted. What a gloriously grim bit of stage business.
Rachael.
No, just the image of the Marshal walking off to kill those 2 people, and then right as he walks back on, he gets sentenced to death too, and then they haul him off. I don't know, there's something that's so abrupt about it that's a grim laugh, I guess. Like when we were in the same way as the virtuous and godly Susanna, when it's just that business of then the other guy's gonna get stringed up who is part of this plot.
Sarah.
Yeah, he's like the ultimate at compartmentalizing, isn't he, Soliman? And he takes it to scary levels. And I mean, it was interesting listening to what Aliki was saying about this first scene at the beginning of the play, because maybe that is the answer to the question I've been asking myself. But as I was playing that scene and it was all snowballing fairly quickly, I was thinking, well, okay, is he descending into madness here? Is he perhaps, has he always been this way, which, you know, from what Aliki was saying, maybe, you know, this has always been in his character? Or is actually this just incredibly cool and clever on his part? Because he effectively, with the exception of Brusor, who he keeps because he needs him to hang around, he effectively gets rid of all evidence of his crime. So it's like, is he actually being spontaneous, or has he plotted all this out beforehand and he's now just acting it out? I don't know if there's anything earlier in the play that would give us the answer to that, but for me reading it, you know, sort of seeing what was happening as I was reading it, I was like, oh, okay, this is actually really, really interesting, because I can't actually pinpoint whether he's doing this on the spur of the moment or whether he's this is all part of his great plan.
I don't think we need to make a decision now. I think that's one for future exploration, or for that matter, the actor who did actor choice, production choice. More.
Sorry, yeah, but can I just flag up that bit at the end where he where he goes, yes, here ends my dear Erastus tragedy, and now begins my pleasant comedy. It's like, dude.
It's like someone just hit the switch, didn't they?
Yeah.
They just went, ding. Now me time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Briony, then Elizabeth.
This play is, there's so much to study in terms of like psychology, you know, like you say, how controlled and planned is it? Is he a sociopath, psychopath? He's definitely got some ridiculously narcissistic traits. I'm fascinated by it on that level.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, just to echo what Briony said, like, I think so far in the play, this has been my favourite scene. I did not see the death of Erastus coming. That came out of nowhere. Death promised us killing, but they did come fast and furious in this scene. One of the things I was thinking about was what Francis said about the Marshal. So the Marshal's on stage, and there are two corpses, and he has to take both of them and throw them off the tower. How does he go about doing that? I just thought it was a very strange stage direction.
He's taking the witnesses, not the corpses.
There are three corpses, the two Janissaries and Erastus, and then the Marshal is to take the two witnesses and execute them by throwing them off a tower.
Oh, okay. It was the witnesses.
Yeah.
It wasn't the killed Janissary.
No.
Okay.
No, it was kill more people, and then, better kill you too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, after he's just walked up and down an awful lot of steps as well, so he's going to be tired. You know, he could at least been offered a chair and a sit down first. Some people are just evil. Anyway, so let us go on. Where's it go? Who's going to survive? Playsure, bets now. Scene 3, as I'm calling it. Enter Perseda, Lucina, and Basilisco, because we always want more Basilisco to a scene like this.
Now, Senior Basilisco, which like you, the Turkish or our nation best?
That which your ladyship will have me like.
Helen, you are muted.
Sorry about that. I am deceived, but you were circumcised?
Indeed, but I was little cut in the prepuce.
What means made you steal back to Rhodes?
The mighty pink-eyed brand-bearing god to whom I am so long true servitor, When he espied my weeping floods of tears for your depart, he bade me follow him. I followed him. He with his firebrand parted the seas, and we came over dry shod.
A matter not unlikely, but how chanceth your Turkish bonnet is not on your head?
Because I now am Christian again, and that by natural means, for, as the old canon says very prettily, nihil est tam naturale, quod eo modo collegatum est, and so forth. So I became a Turk to follow her. To follow her, am now returned a Christian.
Enter Piston.
O lady and mistress, weep and lament and wring your hands, for my master is condemned and executed.
Be patient, sweet Perseda, the fool but jests.
Oh no! My nightly dreams foretold me this, which, foolish woman, fondly I neglected. But say, what death died my poor Erastus?
Nay, God be praised, his death was reasonable. He was but strangled.
But strangled? Ah, double death to me. But say, wherefore was he condemned to die?
For nothing but high treason?
What treason? Or by whom was he condemned?
Faith, 2 great knights of the post swore upon the Alcoran that he would have fired the Turk's fleet.
Was Brusor by?
I?
And Soliman?
No, but I saw where he stood to hear and see the matter well conveyed.
Accursed Soliman, profane Alcoran! Lucina came thy husband to this end, to lead a lamb unto the slaughterhouse? Hast thou for this, in Solomon's behalf, with cunning words tempted my chastity? Thou shalt abide, for both your treacheries. It must be so. Basilisco, dost thou love me? Speak.
I, more than I love either life or soul. What, shall I stab the emperor for thy sake?
No, but Lucina, if thou lovest me, kill her.
Then Basilisco takes a dagger and feels upon the point of it.
The point will mar her skin.
What darest thou not? Give me the dagger then. There's a reward for all thy treasons past.
Then Perseda kills Lucina.
Yet dare I bear her hence to do thee good?
No, let her lie, a prey to ravening birds. Nor shall her death alone suffice for his. Rhodes now shall be no longer Soliman's. We'll fortify our walls and keep the town, in spite of proud, insulting Soliman. I know the lecher hopes to have my love, and first Perseda shall with this hand die, then yield to him and live in infamy.
She exits, leaving Basilisco.
I will ruminate. Death, which the poets feign to be pale and meagre, hath deprived Erastus's trunk from breathing vitality. A brave cavalier, but my approved foeman. Let me see, where is that Alcides, surnamed Hercules, the only clubman of his time? Dead. Where is the eldest son of Priam, that Abraham-coloured Trojan? Dead. Where is the leader of the Myrmidons, that well-knit Achilles? Dead. Where is the furious Ajax, the son of Telamon, or that fraudful squire of Ithaca, eclipsed Ulysses? Dead. Where is tipsy Alexander, that great cup conqueror, or Pompey, that brave warrior? Dead. I myself am strong, but I confess death to be stronger. I am valiant, but mortal. I am adorned with nature's gifts, a giddy goddess that now giveth and anon taketh. I am wise, but quiddits will not answer death. To conclude in a word, to be captious, virtuous, ingenious, are to be nothing when it pleaseth death to be envious. The great Turk, whose seat is Constantinople, hath beleaguered Rhodes, whose chieftain is a woman. I could take the rule upon me, but the shrub is safe when the cedar shaketh. I love Perseda as one worthy, but I love Basilisco as one I hold more worthy. My father's son, my mother's solace, my proper self. Faith, he can do little that cannot speak, and he can do less that cannot run away. Then, sith man's life is as a glass, and may a Philip may crack it. Mine is no more, and a bullet may pierce it, and therefore I will play least in sight.
Exit Basilisco. Man, that was your moment. That was the moment you've been leading all your life to a moment of sudden, actual, meaningful violence, and he did not do it. And then he gets this great speech, which is reminding me very much of Shock-Headed Peter, where you're just going, and we get to the end of a sentence. Get the audience to all shout dead. This constant repetition of dead. What is it altogether now? Dead. Death scored another point for this round. Death 7 so far for Act 5. Who saw that coming?
Well, okay. I knew Basilisco wasn't going to kill anybody.
But yeah, when Perseda just says, "Oh, give it here,"
Give me.
Wow. Briony.
It's weird that, I mean, they haven't. It's still in with his character and stuff, but it's like they've finally given him a bit of depth in a really weird way. Yeah, that was odd and unexpected for me. And I guess not only has Death won there, but like stolen a point at least from Love, I would imagine, because he's chosen himself over his love.
And yeah, there is almost a realisation of who he is at this point, isn't there? Which we were discussing earlier. Had he reached a point of self-realisation? No. But then I love Perseda as one worthy, but I love Basilisco as one I hold more worthy. I mean, that's a sentiment I can really relate to. So yeah. We can move on. We do have a reasonable amount of text left to do, so be brief. Rachael, then Aliki.
No, I was just gonna say in Basilisco's monologue, just some of the people that he names are weird, or to me for some reason, because they don't seem like the regular people that you would name in a speech, like, you know, Ajax or Pompey. Maybe it's also part of his, you know, way of bragging but not being a real soldier, because I mean Ajax is defeated by Achilles very early, and Pompey is too, and they're just I don't know. I mean, Pompey's not defeated by Achilles, but you know what I mean. He's not. Those aren't the first people that I think in their stories that you would go to, like Pompey. It's the Caesars and Cleopatra are the ones that are more interesting than them, and Achilles is more the romantic character than Ajax is, and they're not.
Yes, Aliki.
I just wanted to say that it's the same sentiment that Soliman had earlier about giving Perseda in marriage to Erastus. Why did I go to help my friend instead of helping myself? And then that's what Basilisco says. Perseda is great, but I'm great.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, you get the impression that Basilisco is trying to remember names in that speech. There's one where he's going, "It's the oldest son of Priam, this guy." You know who I mean. Quality to it. So maybe he's struggling to actually get the names out there. And again, that's sort of part of his shtick. It's not like he's perfect on anything. I think Alan said something similar in the chat.
Yep.
Any other thoughts as we go into what we'll call scene 4? Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I'm only just picking up Basilisco today, but is that also what Rachael was saying? Is that not part of his character? The fact that he doesn't pick the...
Yeah.
He doesn't pick the obvious guys.
He gets things almost right.
Well, is it almost... Is it even though that he's looking to get it right? Is it like he deliberately likes to be off to one side doing the...
I don't think he's the brightest match in the box.
Yeah, I don't think there's an intent to get it wrong. Okay. I think there's just he's just getting his references.
Prototype malaprop.
Okay, we'll move on to what we'll call scene 4. We have the return of Soliman and Brusor with Janissaries. There's not really many other people he could come on with at this stage, because he's killed quite a few of them. So, Soliman and Brusor.
The gates are shut, which proves that Rhodes revolts, and that Perseda is not Soliman's. Ah, Brusor! See where thy Lucina lies, butchered despitefully without the walls.
Unkind Perseda, couldst thou use her so? And yet we use Perseda little better.
Nay, gentle Brusor, stay thy tears a while, lest with thy woes thou spoil my comedy, and all too soon be turned to tragedies. Go, Brusor, bear her to thy private tent, where we at leisure will lament her death, and with our tears bewail her obsequies. For yet Perseda lives for Soliman. Drum, sound a parley. Were it not for her, I would sack the town, ere I would sound a parley.
A drum sounds a parley. Perseda comes upon the walls in man's apparel. Basilisco and Piston are also there upon the walls. Perseda.
At whose entreaty is this parley sounded?
At our entreaty. Therefore yield the town.
Why, what art thou that boldly biddest me yield?
Great Soliman, Lord of all the world.
Thou art not Lord of all. Rhodes is not thine.
It was and shall be. Morga who says no.
I that say no will never see it thine.
Why, what art thou that darest resist my force?
A gentleman and thy mortal enemy, and one that dares thee to the single combat.
First tell me, doth Perseda live or no?
She lives to see the wreck of Soliman.
Then I will combat thee, whate'er thou art.
And in Erastus' name I'll combat thee. And here I promise thee on my Christian faith, then will I yield Perseda to thy hand, that, if thy strength shall overmatch my right, to use as to thy liking, it shall seem best. But ere I come to enter single fight, first let my tongue utter my heart's despite, and thus my tale begins. Thou wicked tyrant, thou murderer, accursed homicide, for whom hell gates and all the ugly fiends do wait for to receive thee in their jaws. Ah, perjured and inhumane Soliman, how could thy heart harbour a wicked thought against the spotless life of poor Erastus? Was he not true? Would thou hadst been as just? Was he not valiant? Would thou hast been as virtuous? Was he not loyal? Would thou hast been as loving? Ah, wicked tyrant, in that one man's death thou hast betrayed the flower of Christendom. Died he, because his worth obscured thine? In slaughtering him, thy virtues are defamed. Didst thou misdo him in hope to win Perseda? Ah, foolish man, therein thou art deceived. For though she live, yet will she ne'er live thine, which to approve I'll come to combat thee.
Injurious foul-mouthed knight, my wrathful arm shall chastise and rebuke these injuries.
Then Perseda comes down to Soliman, Basilisco, and Piston too.
Aye, but here are you so foolish to fight with him?
Aye, sirrah. Why not, as long as I stand by?
I'll not defend Erastus' innocence, but thee in maintaining Perseda's beauty.
And then they fight, and Soliman kills Perseda.
Aye, now I lay Perseda at thy feet, but with thy hand first wounded to the death. Now shall the world report that Soliman slew Erastus in hope to win Perseda, and murdered her for loving of her husband.
What? My Perseda? All that I have done! Yet kiss me, gentle love, before thou die.
A kiss I grant thee, though I hate thee deadly.
I loved thee dearly, and accept thy kiss. Why didst thou love Erastus more than me? Or why didst thou not give Soliman a kiss at this unhappy time? Then hadst thou lived.
Ah, let me kiss thee too before I die.
Nay, die thou shalt for thy presumption, for kissing her whom I do hold so dear.
Then Soliman kills Basilisco.
I will not kiss her, sir, but give me leave to weep over her, for while she lived, she loved me dearly, and I loved her.
If thou didst love her, villain, as thou sayest, then wait on her through eternal night.
Then Soliman kills Piston.
Oh, Perseda, how shall I mourn for thee? Fair springing rose, ill-plucked before thy time. Ah, heavens, that hitherto have smiled on me. Why do you unkindly lower on Soliman? The loss of half my realms, nay, crown's decay, could not have pricked so near into my heart as doth the loss of my Perseda's life. And with her life, I likewise lose my love. And with her love, my heart's felicity. Even for Erastus' death, the heavens have plagued me. Ah, no, the heavens did never more accuse me than when they made me butcher of my love. Yet justly, how can I condemn myself when Brusor lives, that was the cause of all? Come, Brusor, help to lift her body up. Is she not fair?
Even in the hour of death.
Was she not constant?
As firm as are the poles whereon heaven lies.
Was she not chaste?
As is Pandora's or Diana's thoughts.
Then tell me, his treason set aside, what was Erastus, in thy opinion?
Fair spoken, wise, courteous, and liberal. Kind, even to his foes, gentle and affable. And, all in all, his deeds heroical.
Oh, was he so? How dost thou then, ungracious counsellor, first cause me murder such a worthy man, and after tempt so virtuous a woman? Be this, therefore, the last that e'er thou speak. Janissaries, take him straight unto the block, off with his head, and suffer him not to speak.
Exit Brusor.
And now, Perseda, here I lay me down, and on thy beauty still contemplate, until my eyes shall surfeit by my gazing. But stay, let me see what paper is this.
Then he takes up a paper and reads in it as followeth.
Tyrant, my lips were sauced with deadly poison, to plague thy heart that is so full of poison. What? Am I poisoned? Then, Janissaries, let me see Rhodes recovered ere I die. Soldiers, assault the town on every side. Spoil all. Kill all. Let none escape your fury.
And sound an alarm to the fight.
Say, Captain, is Rhodes recovered again?
It is, my lord, and stoops to Soliman.
Yet that allays the fury of my pain before I die, for doubtless die I must. Aye, fates, injurious fates have so decreed, for now I feel the poison 'gins to work, and I am weak, even to the very death. Yet something more contentedly I die, for that my death was wrought by her device, who, living, was my joy, whose death my woe. Ah, Janissaries, now dies your emperor before his age hath seen his mellowed years. And if you ever loved your emperor, affright me not with sorrows and laments. And when my soul from body shall depart, trouble me not, but let me pass in peace, and in your silence let your love be shown. My last request, for I command no more, is that my body with Perseda be interred where my Erastus lies entombed, and let one epitaph contain us all. Now I feel the paper told me true. The poison is dispersed through every vein, and boils like Etna in my frying guts. Forgive me, dear Erastus, my unkindness. I have revenged thy death with many deaths. And, sweet Perseda, fly not, Soliman, when as my gliding ghost shall follow thee with eager mood through eternal night. And now, pale death sits on my panting soul, and with revenging ire doth tyrannize, and says, for Soliman's too much amiss, this day shall be the period of my bliss.
Then Soliman dies, and they carry him forth with silence. Everybody exits. Enter the chorus. So it's time for the final match report from Fortune, Love, and Death. And I count that last act 12 points for Death as a minimum. Let's see if anyone else can squeeze any points out of this.
I gave Erastus woe and misery amidst his greatest joy and jollity.
But I that have power in earth and heaven above, stang them both with never-failing love.
I bereft them of both love and life.
Of life, but not of love, for e'en in death their souls are knit, though bodies be disjoined. Thou didst but wound their flesh, their minds are free, their bodies burned, yet they honour me.
Hence, foolish fortune, and thou, wanton love, your deeds are trifles, mine of consequence.
I give world's happiness, and woes increase.
By joining persons, I increase the world.
By wasting all, I conquer all the world. And now to end our differences at last, in this last act, note but the deeds of death. Where is Erastus now? But in my triumph. Where are the murderers? But in my triumph. Where's judge and witness? But in my triumph. Where's false Lucina? But in my triumph. Where's fair Perseda? But in my triumph. Where's Basilisco? But in my triumph. Where's faithful Piston? But in my triumph. Where's valiant Brusor? But in my triumph. And where's great Soliman, but in my triumph. Their loves and fortune ended with their lives, and they must wait upon the car of death. Pack, love and fortune, lay in comedies, her powerful death best fit tragedies.
I go, yet love shall never yield to death.
And exit love.
But fortune shall, for when I waste the world, then times and kingdoms fortune.
Meanwhile with fortune govern, as she may.
And exit fortune.
Aye. Now will death in his most haughty pride fetch his imperial car from deepest hell and ride in triumph through the world, sparing none but sacred Cynthia's friend, whom death did fear before her life began, for holy fates have graven it in their tables that death shall die if he attempt her end, whose life is heaven's delight, and Cynthia's friend.
And the play ends. I get the impression that we quite enjoyed that. For the most part, what a lot of death. Briony.
I absolutely loved that, but I have a slightly contentious point that came to me during that. I don't know how many people are going to agree with me, but I would say that love has definitely won all of this, because Soliman killed everybody for his love of himself and then died for it.
Ooh.
Also, I'm a bit disappointed that death doesn't shiv love and fortune at the end, because that's how I would have ended it.
Doom. Yeah. Well, that could be changed. That could be. I mean, it is basically nobody survives this play at all, apart from the captain. I mean, it's the only one we can prove is still alive at the end of the play, because everybody else, who we may have met earlier, has probably died in battle. Even if we haven't literally, they killed the clowns. We've only got 2 plays, I think, where we've got the clown figure being explicitly killed at the end. I think it was Looking Glass, and we also sort of had it in Susanna, but Clown, it was more Clown Vice, so it was a fair game. I don't think we've got other plays where they explicitly killed the clown.
I mean, this is wonderful, isn't it? It's that head-on clash of tragedy and comedy. Bang there, and you have to highlight it in production. I think you just have to go, look, here it is, bang, bang, over and over again. Brilliant stuff.
Well, it's when they explicitly say, pack love and fortune play in comedies, of which we have literally just done. The comedy of love and fortune. So, is that that's either a plug because it's in their repertoire, or it's an over-the-shoulder insult at a rival's work. It does feel that that's a meta joke going on there, being played at other plays. Yeah, and that bit, because you were all reacting when, give me a kiss, yes, okay, and you're going, why would she do that? And then, no, it's the poison kiss switcheroo. It isn't a bad thing, it is a good thing. You want her to laugh afterwards as she dies.
I do wonder if George R.R. Martin had read this play, right?
Briony.
I was kind of glad when Basilisco had died, so that I could turn my microphone off and not snort again on camera, because it just killed me, the end of that. It was brilliant.
Well, Basilisco stepping in there is so perfect. I absolutely love that, let me kiss her too. Oh.
Yeah.
Man, it just so undercuts that Soliman is trying to make this grand gesture thing, and then it's undercut by him immediately, and it's so nice. Yeah, you see, this always cheers the room up when people get brutally murdered. It's nothing worse than doing a comedy that falls flat or has problematic elements. But this sweeps all those things aside, because everybody's dead, and so even if you didn't like them, they're all dead, so it's fine. And we're even just as glad when the nice people die too. Elizabeth.
I was just going to second what you said, Rob, because just as Basilisco goes and kisses Perseda, Piston says, I won't kiss her, so there's no need to kill me. I'm fine, I won't kiss her. And he still gets murdered.
Yeah, and Pistons, that is a real... I mean, they're really interesting feelings about what's going on there, because Piston's been great fun. That nobody mocks Piston because he's just so cool. And, it's a boy. as well. You know, it's a small, it's a page boy type character. You know, he's supposed to be small, and they kill him. Whoa. So, yeah. Any additional thoughts about that end? Helen, are you saying something there? You're muted, so I can't hear.
I was only saying what everybody else is saying. I did not see this coming.
Leaky.
I do have a serious point, and it's this. So Soliman is Soliman the Magnificent, who didn't die for another 30 years or so after he'd conquered Rhodes. And it's really interesting that the playwright has chosen this character and this way of doing it, because the historical Soliman did fall in love with a captive, formerly Christian woman in his harem. He elevated her to sultana, which had never happened before, and took her very seriously and took her advice. She was essentially the most powerful woman in the world, because from a situation very much like the one in which Perseda and Lucina find themselves when they arrive in Istanbul. So that he took this story of a Muslim ruler making a Christian peasant woman, we don't know much about her real origins, into one of the most powerful people in the world, and instead made it a story of a captured Christian woman destroying said ruler. It is a really interesting little trick.
And we haven't even touched on the fact that Perseda comes down to fight him herself in disguise as a knight. So presumably visor down. You know, it's a plausible disguising, not a unconvincing disguising. That gets a fight scene. Just a note, I'm assuming that death at the end is saying, when talking about Cynthia's friend, is that the Queen won't die? I was assuming that was a reference to the Queen Elizabeth. So, I will kill everyone, apart from you, Your Majesty, because that would be treason to say that you might die. I'm
just wondering whether there's cross-fertilisation with some of the Lily epilogues we've covered.
In any epilogue where they reference to isn't the Queen. It's a clever little side. It may have had a performance before Her Majesty. It may not. We don't really know. But yeah. Okay, we're into just approaching extra time. Final thoughts about the play overall, or the play in this session that you've stumbled into. For those who have just stumbled into the play for this session, about what one does with this play. I mean, we are all very enthusiastic for it. That doesn't mean that there aren't elements that we have to be careful about in staging it and being responsible about how we cast it and how we approach it. But it has to be said, it's gone down rather well. So all sorts of questions. Final thoughts from the room. Francis, thrown in at the deep end in this bloodbath. Final thoughts?
I've enjoyed this one more than other plays where plays we've read where I've parachuted in at the end. And I'm quite sorry I missed the first 2 days of this. I was quite glad that Brusor got his comeuppance at the end, because he's a nasty piece of work. I didn't understand at all why Soliman called him Gentle Brusor at one point in the last scene, because there's nothing gentle about him. I also wondered, there seems to be a certain degree of, I'm not sure racism is quite the right word, but the fact that these Turks behave so abominably, there seems to be no honour amongst them. The killing of the witnesses, the killing of Brusor, who've just been doing as they've been told. It's just, it just seems to be presenting the Turks as savages. So I think that's interesting. By the way, I have lots of Turkish friends here in Amsterdam, so and they're all very nice people.
Yes, we were talking about this in part over the last two sessions of that question of how the Turkish court is being presented and the various differences between the very formal, very chivalric Christians in the first act or so, and that is something that's important to get a question of what one does in performance. So it's good that we're continuing that conversation. Other thoughts from someone who's been here before? Helen, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I've read or been through in the last year an awful lot of Turkish plays that I hadn't previously known existed. And there is a sort of early modern standard of Turkish behavior, which, and quite honestly, in the first 2/3 of this, I thought this is quite a reasonable play for a Turkish play, in that the Turks are behaving within the bounds of what is acceptable for the time. And then
then it goes Game of Thrones.
Yeah, then Soliman goes all Peter III on us. And I don't know. And it seemed the last today, he was so narcissistic and so sociopathic and so unempathetic and so self-centered. But that was him, I think, rather than the Turkish nation, if you see what I mean. So I don't think I somehow don't think it's so bad. I mean, most of what I find is really problematical in these plays is that you occasionally get a scene of anti-Semitism, which is practically impossible to read, never mind to put on stage. And you don't get that here. And that is one thing in its favour. I must read more Kyd.
There isn't that much more left to read. We've only got one Kyd left, and that's going to the evening sessions because there's only about 2 people on stage at any one time. But yes, we'll be doing that in the next week or so. So by all means, catch us. Otherwise, we've already done Spanish Tragedy. We will return to the Spanish Tragedy and Spanish comedy for that matter. Sarah, you've been parachuted in for this one. How are you feeling about Soliman and the play overall?
I feel like I've done a full play just in the last 2 acts. I am now going to have to go back and read the rest because I'm like, what have I missed? Like, because it just all seemed so beautifully just compact and concise, and just so much happened. I'm intrigued to read the rest of it, but I really enjoyed it. I think I must have missed most of the other Kyds. I mean, as you know, I love the Spanish Tragedy.
Yes, that's the other Kyd we've done.
Yeah.
There aren't many.
Oh, okay, right. That would explain why I haven't done any others then. Okay. I just think it's beautifully written. I love what he gets away with. As a writer, the way he does have Soliman, just turning on a sixpence again and again and again and again. The fact that it's a character choice, and he kind of gets away with it because his characters are so well written, and there's such great kind of, even though it's a plot where it's a betrayal and it's revenge, and we've kind of all been here before, he just makes it compelling. I really enjoyed it. But like you say, good few deaths. Everyone loves a good death.
Yeah, always nice. Yes, Rachael. Now that you've got a cat in tow, any opinions from the cat?
I don't know. It's really well written. There's something about his writing that's very attractive, and that makes some of the more problematic things in it. I don't know. It makes me question them more. It's just one of those things where it is a product of it, where I can say it is a product of its time and still appreciate it, unlike some of the other things where it's this shock comedy type thing. No, I did like it. It's complicated, I guess. It's a complicated text that generates a lot of discussion.
Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting piece. I can see Sarah's point, because to follow your sports program analogy, it is a game of two halves. 4 and 5 could stand on their own almost as a piece. It will be a shame to lose the first half, but it works. This unit that we've done today does work on its own terms, I think.
We've got a good placement of an interval, which is always nice.
Yeah.
And
there's some interesting changes in dynamic in the use of language. And I'm still slightly conflicted over how far one could play up the two comedic or semi-comedic characters. I think Piston is very definitely comedy side. Basilisco is part and part, because he does also do some exposition monkey stuff.
Yes, the thing is, if they are hilarious when you kill them, it's gonna be a proper gut punch for the audience, which we're very much here for.
Given you end up with only one character left alive beside the three fates or whatever you want to call them,
the only character we can prove is still alive is the captain. That's the only one we can prove is definitely still alive. This is one of the bloodiest tragedies I think we've ever read. Because there's usually 2 or 3 left standing at the end, and he's not even a named character. Nobody named survives. It really is. Yeah. Briony, final thoughts.
I really, really, really enjoyed this one. I was laughing so hard at the end. It speaks to me personally in a lot of ways, because I personally have a big interest in psychology and stuff, and I think that's a huge angle in this because of the way he's written the characters. I love that. I mean, Sarah said the same thing today in the session that I'd said yesterday, because I missed the first session, and jumping in, you just instantly know how most of these characters need to be read, because it's all there in the words. It's just really well written, and I think there's things like parallels between personality types to sort of emphasize different facets of them. I think there's an awful lot to be explored in this. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Elizabeth, final thoughts?
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. I thought it was a really, really good play. It had a really good pace to it. And the characters were very, very well drawn. I particularly loved the whole idea of Perseda dressing up as a man and then challenging Soliman to single combat. I thought that was so exciting. I knew she was going to lose, but I just thought that is so exciting for her to do that. I think Kyd brings out something new in every act, if not in every scene, that we haven't seen before. And it keeps us really engaged with the play. It's very difficult to watch this play and zone out. You have to really focus on the text. I love the way it's written as well. I thought it's really beautifully written. It's one of my favorite Turkish plays that we've done. I was wondering if the Turkish element had any way of being offensive. So I noticed some things were changed. So instead of Quran, it says Al-Quran. Instead of Muhammad, it says Mahomet. And we were discussing in the chat that it said Sulaiman was the name of the real Soliman. So there was different spellings. I was just wondering if those were included to ameliorate, so it's not too offensive.
No, I think it's just the early modern English getting it wrong. If anything, it's probably worse. Rachael.
The Al-Quran part. Al in Arabic means the. So they might just have heard people saying Al-Quran when they were speaking in Arabic, and they did not realize they were two separate words, you know, and thrown that together. So that so reading that in the text, it's like they're just saying the Quran when they say that, not really realizing the mistranslation.
Aliki, final thoughts?
I think we've covered pretty much everything, so I'll just frivolously add that I've never seen anybody outside a Lewis Carroll reference actually say off with their head on stage before, and how lovely.
I think we've had an off with their head somewhere. I may have imagined that. It definitely exists. It is used. But yeah, it's always nice to have additional. Tamara, final thoughts before we have the arrival of our lurker today, Lois, to see if Lois has any final thoughts. Tamara.
Yeah, I think most things have been said. I need to go back and see what I missed as well, just like Sarah, because I feel like wait, isn't this the whole play? I think, see, my mind just kept going on and on about how you could stage it, but obviously there is a Islamophobia issue with doing this play, and it's I'm sure there's a way around it, and I think that would be really valuable to tackle as well. But it would have to be done right. So that's what my mind got stuck on. How could we possibly do it now? And what conversations do people need to have? And could it, is it worthwhile even discussing the problems that come up in the play? So, using the cultural problems and the Islamophobia as something to talk about, and talk about the past and Islamophobia and present and all of that. So my mind ran away a little bit beyond the play. I just love the ending. If I kind of need to watch myself back, because I'm pretty sure I cheered when he read the paper. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's partly especially when we're talking about, if we did it, who the casting is, who are the people producing it, in that sense as well, in terms of how you progress with these kinds of texts. So it's a matter of looking for a much more diverse room of people to be producing that in that sense, which is what we're definitely looking for. Do get in touch if you are interested in this play and want to see how it could be addressed and played with, or put things in the comments if you have any suggestions or thoughts of your own. Everything is open and valid here at this stage. Lois, you've been lurking in the background over some of these days. Any final thoughts from you?
Oh, I've really loved hearing this. I think it's probably better than the Spanish tragedy, actually. It seems to me more consistently exciting and interesting. And it also, I think, helps explain something that has puzzled scholars a lot. I mean, there's a poem by Ben Jonson which refers to Kyd and Marlowe in the same line, and the line is, and sporting Kyd, or Marlowe's mighty line. And I think they often get linked together, and everybody's wondered, sporting Kyd, because they only know the Spanish tragedy, which is pretty gloomy. It does have a comic bit in it, but mostly it's a pretty much unrelieved misery. And this play, on the other hand, really is sporting, and I suspect that he wrote other comedies as well that have been lost because we really don't know much about him. But the connection with Marlowe, I think, is also interesting, because I kept thinking of The Jew of Malta, in which you've got Christians, Jews, and Turks. And it always seemed to me that the point of that play was that they're all as bad as each other. In fact, if anything, the Turks come out slightly better. And I would have thought in this as well. I mean, most of the Christians, apart from Erastus and Perseda, who I think are depicted as the romantic couple, behave pretty badly. And Basilisco is prepared to, change his faith and then go back again. I mean, I don't really think a lot of this is meant to be particularly admirable. So I'm not sure. I mean, Soliman is obviously an extreme case, but even there, I mean, I think it's meant to be, like a lot of these other people we've read, like Mully Mahomet in the Battle of Alcazar, one of these great parts for somebody to go mad and go through every possible emotion on the stage. Everybody always talks about the influence of the Spanish tragedy on, various well-known plays, but I think you can see an awful lot of influence of this one as well.
Absolutely, yes. That sort of overlap with Marlowe, you really do feel that they were flatmates, and that they talked to each other, and were rivals as well as maybe, who knows, collaborators. Who knows how they worked or didn't work together, but you can definitely feel that. And yeah, in comparison with the Spanish tragedy, it has one great advantage: it's shorter. I mean, the thing about the Spanish tragedy, I think it's that Wagner thing. The minutes are fine, but the hours are get you in the end. There's some great material in Spanish tragedy, but there's a lot of material in Spanish tragedy, and we didn't even read it with the additions when we looked at it. We just looked at the earliest text. So yeah, this has an advantage that it's relatively short. I mean, it's going to fill 2 hours plus, but it's not going to be 2.5, 3 hours in that sort of general direction. Lois again.
Yeah, I was just thinking something you could do if you could fit it in would be to read the last scene of the Spanish tragedy as soon as possible after this, so people could see exactly what the relationship is.
Well, we'll see if I can squeeze something in. I have to be said, I would quite like to return to Spanish tragedy for a second look, because it has been too long. It has been too long. We have also, talking of going too long, we are massively over time. So I'm going to be closing the session in just a second. All that remains is to thank all these wonderful readers for all their wonderful thoughts. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.
Bye.
They lopped a collop off my tenderest member.